Allow me to introduce myself. Boris Bedenoff at your service.
Now on to the hardest part of this plan.
And that is?
We're going to take Washington.
Darling, that's not hard.
No.
Look at headline.
Boston takes Washington 7-2.
Anybody can take Washington.
Wait till next year. Come on, Natasha.
Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with a rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Well, will Bullwinkle be able to extricate himself?
I will as soon as I get loose.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 81. I am your host, TFG and Mike. Joining me is Jeremy Fein. Hello, sir.
Holy nostalgia, Bullwinkle.
Yeah. This is The Pull Bag, as I said, episode 81. We are getting into some classic cartoon-based comics, or comic-based cartoons here. As people have known, or should have known if you've been listening to this show since the beginning of it, after year one of the podcast, year and year two, I've really, changed everything up. I mean, generally, most of the time we are doing trade coverage, but I just couldn't wait for the trade on these, so we are going to do issues 1 through 4 of the Bullwinkle IDW Publishing mini-series. I do know that by looking at the final page of the 4th issue that they have, I think it's already out, actually, they will be having, or like I said, it might already be out, most likely it is, I think it's Classic Adventures, here it is, available now, Rocky and Bullwinkle Classics, full color, 122 pages, $18. And it looks like you're going to get adventures from Dudley Do-Right, obviously Rocky Bullwinkle, Boris, Natasha, and Sherman and Mr. Peabody. I wasn't sure what they were going to do with this series. I know sometimes comic companies will say, "Oh, it's a 4-issue miniseries," and then if that sells well or if we get a positive response, it'll turn into more. I really dug this overall. I grew up watching the Rocky and Bullwinkle reruns. Anyone in the 80s did watch. I mean, unless you lived a very sheltered life. You knew about Rocky and Bullwinkle, you knew about Aesop's Fables, you knew about, I should say Aesop and Son, not Aesop's Fables, but, you knew about this cartoon series, and you knew about these characters. And you've got famed writer, and I believe he's also an animation producer. I would have to look that up. I know I've seen his name attached to many other projects, but you have Mark Evanier writing this. You've got Evanier, Langridge, and Caldwell on, I think, all 4. Yeah, Evanier, Langridge, and Caldwell on all 4. You've got Davis on the 4th one as well. For me, Rocky and Bullwinkle, even though most of the jokes back then as a kid kind of flew over my head, there was still some things as a kid I could laugh at. Specifically Bullwinkle. I mean, Bullwinkle, let's face it, he was the comedic character of the cartoon series.
This was kind of like an Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy for kids. You could tell that, although this was in the 60s, that you had a lot of the voice actors that were vaudevillian. I mean, you had Paul Frees, who was at that time the voice guy. You definitely, I think if it weren't for Rocky and Bullwinkle, we wouldn't have Animaniacs or Tiny Toons or Pinky the Brain.
Absolutely.
Because after Rocky and Bullwinkle, when they came back in the 80s, and I remember on ABC, there was this 2-hour block in the 80s from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. where it had Hoppity Hooper, it had Tennessee Tuxedo, King Leonardo, and then at 7:30 it had Bullwinkle. And then what they decided to do was CBS from 93 to 94 on Wednesday nights would air reruns at 8:30 at night. And you could tell that they were trying to make a comeback, and they even started to promote Bullwinkle fudgicles. Like they had it in his, the shape of his head, and they.
I remember those.
Yeah, and they came and went, and eventually it would go on Nickelodeon, which with most cartoons would go, and then eventually Cartoon Network and Boomerang, and now nothing. But I think it's DVD that saved this show.
Absolutely.
I think it was Netflix streaming and Amazon, and then finally DVD, and thankfully, because I bought the set, that it has the legendary 5th season that you couldn't get for a while. And I feel that this is one of these shows that was so cornball and so hokey, and this is what broke the fourth wall back then. But you didn't care. It was like you had that interaction with the narrator. Now, Bugs Bunny cartoons kind of did that in the 30s and 40s, where they would break the fourth wall every now and then. But Rocky and Bullwinkle redefined it. You didn't mind them breaking the fourth wall as much. You didn't mind the corny jokes, because you had that maybe 6.5, 7 minute time frame, maybe shorter, because you had Peabody and Sherman and Aesop and Son, but it fit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Mark Evanier, very famous writer, also worked on many animation projects: Scooby and Scrappy Doo, The Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show, Thundar the Barbarian, ABC Weekend Special, Richie Rich, The Wuzzles, Dungeons and Dragons. He's most noted in his animation for Garfield and Friends. Rocky and Bullwinkle is like, this is going to be blasphemous for me to say, but I can watch Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons, any of them, pretty much, except the Dudley Do-Rights. I'm not really...
You and me both. I had never... Dudley Do-Right to me was if Yosemite Sam or Elmer Fudd was a good guy. And if Wile E. Coyote was a good guy, and if the Roadrunner was a bad... That's pretty much it. They reversed the roles. In Tiny Toons, Bugs Bunny said, in that pilot of Tiny Toons, that your enemy has tapioca for brains. Mm-hmm. Here it's Dudley Do-Right. And when we get to the Dudley Do-Right comics, I have a lot to say, because...
Okay.
But I'll wait until we get to those. But no, I never, with the King Leonardo show, which nobody seems to remember, they had a segment called The Hunter, and it was this bloodhound that had a southern drawl, and the enemy was this character called the Fox. And again, the Hunter was like Dudley Do-Right, and the Fox was. But the thing is that the Hunter, he would capture the Fox on happenstance. But at least the way it was done, it was like under maybe 2 minutes. But it would go from point A to point B. It's like the Hunter wasn't as annoying as Dudley Do-Right was.
Right. See, here's the thing. I can watch all of the Rocky and Bullwinkle shorts, including Aesop and Son and all those other kind of cartoons, except for Dudley, more so than I can watch the Roadrunner Coyote cartoons anymore. Like, I don't know what it is, but I love watching the classic Looney Tunes, like, Rabbit Fire, or, the classic, Duck Season, Rabbit Season 3, trilogy thing Chuck Jones did, Duck Amuck, a lot of the classic Bugs and Daffy and Yosemite and Elmer, all those classic stuff. The Roadrunner cartoons, I don't know what it is anymore. It's not that I don't think that they're fun or funny. It's just I've seen them so many times throughout my childhood and adulthood that it's like, okay, I guess I'll put this on so I can take a nap.
You know what? If it weren't for the Simpsons Sideshow Bob and Bart, I think they finally redefined Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. At least this way you have the adversary, and at least the adversary talks. But past that, I mean, the Roadrunner cartoons I took for a while because I love the Acme products. But once you saw the Acme products fail, today it's called a drinking game, and you die of alcohol poisoning every time the Acme product didn't work.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that the funny thing is that everything that happens to the Coyote in a certain live-action animation movie, I enjoy more than the old cartoons. I enjoy him in Looney Tunes Back in Action more than I do in the old cartoons, and I know that's horrible to say, but anyway, back to Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yeah, they were one of the first, if not the first, to actually talk to the narrator. Oh, great. Ladies and gentlemen, we are recording this a week before the 4th of July. This will come out July 2nd. And I guess my dumbass neighbors decided to set off fireworks now. It's not the... Anyway. So if you hear explosions in the background, it's the idiots across the way here. But Rocky and Bullwinkle, absolutely love those cartoons. It's just so magical, so awesome. I really wish that Boomerang, Cartoon Network's Boomerang, would still show them. Because Boomerang now is like, here's an hour or two of Tom and Jerry, here's an hour or two at like 2 a.m. for Looney Tunes, and then the rest of the time it's Ben 10, or it's Powerpuff Girls, or it's... Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Powerpuff Girls, or Dexter's Lab, or any of that kind of stuff, or it's Ed, Ed, and Eddie, or it's... Boomerang now, I remember when Boomerang first launched, it was all classics. It was the Flintstones, the Jetsons, the Smurfs, the Snorks, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Looney Tunes. It was anything and everything classic cartoons before the 90s.
You know why? Because of the contracts. Contracts expired.
Yeah, I know. And now it's, hey, we have this show that's 10 years old. Let's get new audiences to read it, or watch it. I'm floundering here, people, so I'm going to let Rocket J. Squirrel take us away, and we'll be back after this with Rocky and Bullwinkle #1.
Hokey smoke, Bullwinkle, look!
All right. Rocky and Bullwinkle #1. The opening flap is Rocket J. Squirrel himself. As I said before, the writer is Mark Evanier, art by Roger Langridge, colors by Jeremy Caldwell, letters by Roger Langridge, and edits by Sarah Gatos. I hope I said that right. The cover checklist. The regular cover was art by Langridge. It's basically a group shot of Rocky, Bullwinkle, Snidely, Boris, Natasha, Dudley, Dudley's horse. The subscription cover, if you were lucky enough to get it, I have all the subscription covers except this one, is Rocky, Bullwinkle, Natasha, and Boris. And Boris looks like he's holding a giant saw in his hand. Yeah. So this is what I love about these comics and these people. These people going back and doing this, because I can so hear the narrator's voice in my head. Just like when I read the Batman 66 comics written by Jeff Parker, I can hear the Bat 66 narrator's voice in my head. Rocky and Bullwinkle, the psychic sidekick. Today finds our heroes heading for an important meeting. Whether they'll get there is a good question, because they're being chauffeured to it by that intrepid man of the sea, even if he's never sure which one he's sailing, Captain Peter Peachfuzz. Dun dun dun. I love the art in this. It's like they took the cartoon series straight to print. Like, it's so great. The models are so on. It's just amazing.
You know, it's cel shading, and it's a shame that Telltale hasn't made like a game out of this. It feels like it's back, it's just a cleaned up of the 60s TV show.
Absolutely. It really, really is. So, Peter Peachfuzz is, and when I first saw this, I know this isn't this, it's some sort of vehicle from the show. When I first saw this car that they're in, I'm like, hey, is that Ecto-1?
Oh, I thought it was the Homer from that Season 2 episode with Herb. When Homer created that car?
Yeah, but when I first looked at it, I didn't see the dome on this first splash page in the very beginning, and I just kind of glanced at it at first. I'm like, is that Ecto-1? But it's not. It's what you're talking about. And Evanier's writing in this, it's just like the cartoon series. Another driver going the wrong way on the freeway, and another. Why don't these people learn to drive? It's like every one of them is driving on the wrong side of the road.
I love the fact he got fired from the last job where he was an operator of an elevator in a 2-story building. No, it was 2 floors, yeah. Yeah, he keeps getting to go the route, and he keeps trying to go sideways, and instead of going to Frostbite Falls, they go to North Dakota.
Yeah.
Fargo, no less.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's, Captain Peach Fuzz is not the smartest tool sharpest tool in the shed. And Bullwinkle's like, remind me why we're going to see this rich guy, because he's going to donate the entire cost of the new park for the children in Frostbite Falls. So, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and this is one of the reasons why I've expanded into some of these, cartoon classic comics. There's not a lot of story here. There doesn't have to be, because plots for the cartoon series were overly simple, but it was good. It was good that they were overly simple. And again, the comedy is just there. So instead of taking them to Frostbite Falls or wherever they have to meet the rich guy, they take him to Muncie. He takes them to Muncie, Indiana. Wow.
Oh, that's right.
Just,
yeah. He was supposed to take him there in 2 minutes, and they ended up going like 2 weeks out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And he says, "Is that anywhere near Lima, Peru?" Come on, Rock, maybe you ought to hitchhike to go meet your generous rich guy. And that's just what they do, which brings us to the question, just who is this generous rich guy? He is Louis F. Lucree, the 17th richest man in the world. The F stands for filthy, as in I'm filthy rich. Ha 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 ha. So, Mr. Lucree was obsessed with trying to find a way to see into the future. He tried everything: fortune cookies, magic 8 balls, astrology. I went to a fortune teller. She said an astrologer would try to swindle me out of $800. She was wrong. That will be $900, please.
Bum. Yeah, I love the fact. Yeah, it definitely feels like something like an old time radio show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. He kept searching for a window tomorrow, but kept not finding it. I'd give a fortune to anyone who could help me look into the future. Maybe that scientist with his new machine can do it. And enter Boris and Natasha, who will spy for food.
You could almost hear Paul Frees and June Foray's voices when they're talking to each other. They haven't changed one bit.
No, not at all. Natasha, are you thinking what I'm thinking? If it's sinister, sneaky, and dishonest, we're on the same page, darling.
Curses foiled again.
Alright, so we are seeing Boris and Natasha, and they have a plan. Because the noted futurist has promised Luke here a device that would give him the ability to predict the future. Dun, dun, dun. It just needs more development, Mr. Lucree. If you give me a few thousand more, I've spent enough on your stupid invention. I'll tell you your future. You're going to get out. There's a couple of things with this series that I don't quite agree with. Now, I know they're trying to bring Rocky and Bullwinkle into the 21st century. I know that the live-action / animated film, way back when, starring Piper Perabo, tried to do this as well, along with Robert De Niro and Rene Russo as Boris and Natasha. That was...
No, actually, he was... Robert De Niro was Fearless Leader.
Fearless Leader.
Yeah.
Jason Alexander was Boris. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you don't remember that other Boris and Natasha movie?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was in '92. It was with Sally Kellerman and Dave Thomas.
Oh, no. What, the Wendy's guy? No way.
Yeah. No, not Wendy's guy. It was another Dave Thomas. It was from the SCTV guys.
Ah, okay.
When Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas were doing those Canadian brothers. That Dave Thomas. Yeah, and Sally Kellerman. It's not a bad movie. It used to be on Showtime a lot. it's kind of faded into obscurity, and they had it with Rocky and Bullwinkle because they didn't have technology back then. They were made into human beings because of plastic surgery, but now they became the enemies. They made Boris and Natasha the good guys. It's it's a very bizarre film.
No. Here's the thing. I get that they're trying to bring Rocky and Bullwinkle to the 21st century, but Lucre says, I'll get rid of your invention the way everyone gets rid of junk that doesn't work. I'll sell it on eBay. That just doesn't fit. I'm not going to sit here and say I dislike Evanier's writing, because I don't. I absolutely love it. But that one line, any future technology kind of stuff in this series, I'm probably going to not like, because that just seems off for... I don't know. Doesn't that sound weird to you?
You know what it is? Back in '98, I was in a play called Christopher Durang's Titanic, and it was supposed to be on the Titanic, and we would talk about television and telephone and all that in 1912. But I mean, telephone was around for a while anyway. But they were talking about television and cable, and it was kind of like rubber band reality. Like, what? Is it okay to take past, present, and future? Does it work in Land and the Lost? Does it work in Rocky and Bullwinkle? Yeah, it's odd, but I guess they're trying to keep up with the times to make jokes. They're trying to make it contemporary, because I guess they feel that with today's readers, they're not going to be familiar with the 60s as much. It's trying to get young readers to get into these characters, but they want to make them young and hip. I mean, here's the thing. I hate to trail off, but they're bringing back Danger Mouse. And I'm kind of interested what they're going to do, but I don't know if Danger Mouse and Penfold, if I understand this, will look the same like Rocky and Bullwinkle. But my fear is, what are they going to do? Are they going to give them a 21st century makeover with the other gadgets in the background? They're trying to have best of both worlds, but the problem is, with reading all four of these issues, it's weird to see. I guess it's because of the movie that they felt, okay, people don't remember Rocky and Bullwinkle, so they kind of made their comeback. That was understandable because they didn't understand the internet and DVD and all that. To do it in the comic book, no, I feel that you're getting the young readers and you're getting the nostalgia readers, and you're going to show the nostalgia readers if they're going to show them to their kids, that's one thing. No, there's no reason to discuss eBay or have Rocky go on the interweb. It just, you're right, it kind of takes me out.
A little bit. I mean, it doesn't take me so out that I'm going to take a point off my rating for these issues or this series, but it does. And see, honestly, I think because IDW Publishing is a company that, is, for the state of the art, and it is for, it is for us nostalgia buffs. It is for us people that grew up with, Turtles and Transformers and Ghostbusters and My Little Pony. Well, that's a new thing now. Not necessarily new, but they're doing Friendship is Magic, all that stuff. But they do a series like this, or I think there was even a Peabody and Sherman 4-issue mini series that IDW did in preparation for that movie. I love that they do this stuff, and I think in my mind it's aimed more at us than it is to get kids reading it, because they have so many other things kids can read. So Luke Ray kicks the guy out. He says, "Is there no one I can hire at any price to show me the future? Allow me to introduce myself. I am Dexter Devine, financial advisor and professional psychic." How did you know I needed a psychic? What kind of a psychic would I be if I didn't know that? And so Mr. Lucre hired Boris Badenoff, Dexter Devine, to advise him on his investments. I love how they crossed out Boris's name.
Yeah, I love that too. It's like they cross out, because that's what they would do on the show. It's like the narrator would say something, but Boris would step in. I also love this wig. It kind of looks like Big Bird was either molting or Boris just got some scrambled eggs and put it on his head. And then of course we got Natasha as his assistant, clairvoyant, and she looks like Daphne.
Yeah, a little bit.
She's got the purple short skirt and the orange hair.
The only thing she's missing is the purple leggings, because Daphne always wears the purple leggings, but yeah. And see, here's the thing, they reference throughout that, Rocky even references that voice. Where have I heard that voice before? As soon as Natasha says, correct, darling. Come on. It's so obvious. Mr. Devine, tell them about some of the great investments you've come up with for me. I've been busy. I had you put $3 million into a big man shop in Tokyo, $4 million into a store selling smartphones to the Amish, $6 million for a company that sells ice makers to the South Pole. And how have I done so far? You've lost $13 million. Gee, I could have done that, and I'm not even psychic.
Yeah, I love how Bullwinkle this is the part where he turns and looks at the audience like he usually would do in the cartoon show. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, too. I live near the Amish. Not all of them, but a few of them are actually using ATMs and cell phones at times. Like some of them, but they only have to, they only use it for the businesses. But I do love, and of course, we have going back to the well, selling snow makers to Eskimos. I love the next panel too, where he goes, "Yeah, that's awful. How do you explain that?" And Boris just goes, "Can't win them all," and he does it like nonchalantly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's very vaudevillian. I love that pose he gives too.
I love the next page, the exchange between Rocky and Bullwinkle. I understand Mr. Lecrae is being played for a sucker by a phony seer. Lecrae ought to sue him. That's right, he should file a seer sucker suit. I'm going to find a phone and report this to the police. If you didn't get that joke, kids, try Googling seersucker suit. Or better still, just forget the whole thing. I'm trying to think of who is a better talker to the audience, Bullwinkle or Ferris Bueller?
I think it goes back to Bullwinkle.
So Bullwinkle, he thinks he wants to help his friend, and he thinks that this contraption that the other guy left was a phone booth. It is so clearly not a phone booth. So the narrator goes, in an attempt to help his friend and perhaps atone for that joke, Bullwinkle went looking for a phone himself. But Rocky, well aware that phone booths became extinct in the year 1993, tried to warn his pal, Bullwinkle, get out of that thing. Let's see, I'll enter the area code here. But it was too late. The invention sparked to life and exploded with a tremendous bang. And Bullwinkle is now psychic.
I love the design of this machine that he goes into. It kind of looks like, the Ghostbusters Firehouse playset in a way. Mm-hmm. It definitely to scale. Yeah, it's amazing how he looks like he's about 6 feet tall, and this thing is about a few feet taller, and then when he steps in, it's like it all of a sudden matches his size. But yeah, he steps out of it, he becomes psychic, and then it's like anything that Rocky says, like he's picking up that Bullwinkle's become psychic, and I think there's a point. Oh no, it's the next story. Yeah, getting too far ahead. Something about the ice cream truck now comes. It's like,
yeah,
it's something like Rocky wanted to know if he wanted water. He says no, I'd rather have a grilled cheese sandwich, and then he goes, wait, I think I'm going to hear an ice cream truck comes, and all of a sudden crashes, and you see just Rocky, like in the next panel, they didn't worry about the guy, they just got the ice cream. It's like...
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Even Boris and Natasha, they're being fired because they're frauds, and they're holding ice cream cones.
Yep. Yeah, wait, the ice cream truck crashed. How did they get the ice cream?
Well, I guess they just went downstairs, they just went in the back, and they just took it.
I guess.
That's the only thing I can think of. It's like, yeah, Bullwinkle says in a few seconds that an ice cream truck is going to hit a pole, and Rocky's like, oh, you're right. And then we go to the next page, and it's like, yeah, the rich guy finds out that Rocky and Bullwinkle's psychic. Rocky's explained this, and all of a sudden, like, they're all having ice cream cones in one panel, and then they're about to be fired, and Boris refuses, and Bullwinkle says, well, you better flee before the police comes in like 4.5 minutes, and Natasha's holding her ice cream cone sternly, like she still holds it. She's pulling away bars, and like the ice cream falls out of the cone.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's what really makes me. I don't know. Like, did Boris never grow? I mean, I'm not trying to be controversial here, but essentially Boris is basically Mickey from Seinfeld. And I know Boris has never been taller than Natasha and all that stuff, but it looks like how she's dragging him here. It looks like he's bouncing on the ground as she's dragging him.
Yeah, I think this is supposed to be because, at the time it's during the Cold War. So, our new enemy was the Russians. Mm-hmm. So that was the whole idea, is that they were trying to say that, the Russians are the enemies and they're not too bright, and, he's now the new Napoleon. He's kind of like the little man's complex. Yeah, was what they were trying to do. But yeah, I still love this. I still can't get over this panel. I love the fact I can say this over and over again, where she's just like holding an ice cream cone. She just won't let go of it.
Yeah. And then Rocky goes, "Gosh, Bullwinkle, you can see the future. What's going to happen next? Next, the narrator is going to tell us the name of the next chapter of this story." Well, it looks like Bullwinkle is right, but maybe not for long, because a sputtering mad spy is out there planning his demise. Be with us next time for Psychic on the Lam, or Small Medium at Large.
I love that. It's a true tribute to the end of each Rocky and Bullwinkle. Like, they would say one title or something else, and this is no exception. And it's still tongue-in-cheek.
Absolutely. Evanier does an amazing job. Up next is a Dudley Do-Right story.
The Mountie! God. Yeah, this is Jacques Rougeau.
I'll let you recap this since you enjoy it so much.
You want me to recap this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, well, this is called The Smell Test. And the only good thing about Dudley Do-Right cartoons was Snidely Whiplash, because he was voiced by Hans Conried, who Disney fans know was the voice of the father, and he was the voice of Captain Hook. I love that voice, and he was also in a couple of other shows from the Jay Ward, Fractured Flickers, which, they would get their hands on these old shorts from the early 1900s, and they would have the cast of Rocky and Bullwinkle do voiceovers. The show didn't do that well, but Hans Conried would host it, and he would do some voiceovers, and Paul Frees would help out. But that's the only pro. The voice cast with the cartoon, you had June Foray as Nell. I forget who voiced her father, and I forget who voiced Dudley. But the whole premise of this one, it's like a Bazooka Joe comic. It's Snidely who knows that Nell is in love with Dudley's horse named Horse, who wears a Mountie outfit. And Snidely creates a perfume that makes anyone smell like a horse. So this way, Nell will now pay attention to Dudley, because Dudley is more concerned about, truth and honor and all that, and, always gain his man. So Snidely makes Dudley smell like a horse, so Nell will spend more time with Dudley, and because Dudley's now being distracted, Snidely will just rob a bank. And pretty much Dudley is doing his best to be polite to Nell, but he's trying to get away from Nell, and Nell is, it's kind of like Pepe Le Pew. And eventually, somehow, Dudley is trying to get away from Nell, and Snidely has robbed the bank, and they bump into each other, and the perfume that Snidely had now makes him smell like a horse, and all these horses are chasing after him, and eventually the aroma wears off, and Nell is no longer in love with Dudley, and Dudley's just like, shrug shoulders, going, well, I might as well enjoy everything while it lasted, or something like that. The only thing I can say is that I have nothing against Mark. Believe me, I'm glad that he's seasoned, and I'm glad he cares about Bullwinkle. But Dudley Do-Right, this feels like a Bazooka Joe comic. It's the Dudley Do-Right cartoons are probably less than 3 minutes, and I have the digital comic. I didn't get the so this is only like 4 pages, and it's not funny. Snidely, I'm trying to channel Hans Conried, but it's not an interesting caper. And in all honesty, I know in '99 they had a Dudley Do-Right movie, and Sarah Jessica Parker, out of all people, was Nell. And I know a few years before that she was in a movie called Ed Wood, where she looks up after getting reviewed and saying, like, do I have a face like a horse? And ever since then, people have been making fun of her. So, I the fact that she's in love with the horse, I go back to, like, it's Sarah Jessica Parker. I mean, I don't understand the infatuation with the horse. First of all, for a kid's comic, it's just disturbing. The fact she's dancing, the fact that she's dancing with the horse and she's in love with, and we're going to get into like issue 4 because that's even more. It's more wrong and wrongdom of wrongness.
Yes.
But I don't have it. The characters playing off of each other aren't enjoyable. It only works if Hans Conried was still alive, or if Dan Castaneda, if they do a motion comic and he does that Hans Conried impression. But no, it's not funny. It's not snappy, and Dudley is just an idiot.
I would have rather have had some Aesop and Son or some Fractured Fairy Tales, anything other than Dudley, along with these Bullwinkles. They had so many other options they could have done instead of going to Dudley. It was Bill Scott also voicing Bullwinkle, but it was Bill Scott that does Dudley in the show.
I think the only thing that I like about Dudley besides this is that ride at Universal in Florida, because I like the long flume. The long flume is fun, and I like that Mount Rushmore with the characters. But there's a Ren and Stimpy where it's more cleaned up, it's less gross, and they have something where they created this gum creature, and it turns out it's from a Bazooka Joe comic, and it went insane because it had to read the same comic, and it's a 3-panel strip. How do you get a fish from? How do you prevent the fish from smelling? I don't know. How do you stop a fish from smelling? You kill it. And the gum went insane, became this creature that Stimpy invented, and that's why it went on a rampage. That's how I feel with these Dudley Do-Rights.
All right, Rocky and Bullwinkle, small, medium, at large. Well, as you remember, last time, a freak accident had given Bullwinkle the power to see into the future, and he had been hired by Louis F. Luttree, formerly the 17th richest man in the world, to advise him on investments. That was how Luttree became the 9th richest man in the world, and was closing in on the 8th.
Vince McMahon needs this guy. Vince McMahon needs Bullwinkle like nobody. Yeah, it's interesting because apparently he's making all this money, and of course he's mentioning how Rocky and Bullwinkle will now be on Blu-ray, which I don't know that that's ever going to happen. I just have it on standard. But yeah, this one, small, medium, at large, it's okay.
I mean, I dug it. I thought it was a nice little ending to the story.
It wraps everything up. Don't get me wrong. I just, it's classic Bullwinkle. I like how the maid comes and she's going to give him this food. He's like, no, I already, don't lift up the tray. I know what's already under there. I just want a cheeseburger with a side order of another cheeseburger. I mean, and I love his facial expression. Like, you can see, like, he's not interested and his hands are up. I mean, that's classic Bullwinkle. And then, of course, we got Boris and Natasha, of course, with the safe. They're outside with a safe. Boris is able to lift this thing. He's like, I think like 32 inches or something. He has no muscle tone. And I love the fact he's able to pull up the safe. This is like probably the 100th time he's done this.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
And a dog is underneath there, and he's just looking up underneath the safe. Like,
yeah.
Whoop?
That's crazy. But no, I love the art on these. I mean, the characters look so well. They look so well done. The colors really pop. It's such a good comic. It really, like I said, the stories with Rocky and Bullwinkle are all great.
Well, I love the last few pages of this because somehow Bullwinkle knows that, like, he's not even interested. You could see, like, they're about to take a walk because Rocky's upset that the rich guy won't, spend money on the park for the kids. And you see Bullwinkle's face is like, well, we can't go outside because Boris and Natasha are out there to drop a safe on me. So Boris is wondering what's going on. He looks inside. He gives the thing to Natasha to hold the rope. And we know that she doesn't have muscle tone. And I love her facial expression. Like, she can't hold on. She lets go of the rope. It crashes on Boris. He lives as usual. And Rocky and Bullwinkle walk away. And I love how Bullwinkle's face is like, oh, well, the combination is left 27 and right 3 and left 11, to get him out of the safe. Because apparently, it's one of those cartoon safes that crashes right through Boris and he's inside the safe.
Mm-hmm. And then we get to Rocky, hokey smokes, we have to do something. And so do something he did. The plucky squirrel spotted a detour sign and moved it into a different position. Maybe this'll do it. You think Igor will do as you instructed? Igor is relentless. He follows orders exactly. He is perfectly employee. He has no mind of his own. That should give you a hint of what's going to happen next, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that's right. And we get characters I have not... I'm sorry, I forgot about these two. Chauncey and Edgar.
Yep, the guys in the park, yep.
Yeah, that's right, because Boris had a plan B to have Edgar drive in this car to run over Rocky and Bullwinkle, and that's why Rocky changes the detour sign. And, of course, Igor follows it. He starts chasing after Boris and Tasha. They're in the park. He's like, no, there's something you don't see every day, Chauncey. What's that, Edgar? 2 old guys on a bench who've been working as a running gag since 1959. I don't know, Edgar. Running gags are still popular. And they look the same.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's like Langridge watched a bunch of these old cartoons before he went to draw these characters. I mean, everybody knows what Rocky and Bullwinkle, Boris, and Natasha look like. But all these side characters, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, even the kid with the beanie that drops the hammer, yeah, because Rocky and Bullwinkle walking along the sidewalk, and then Bullwinkle says he's going to lose his psychic ability because this kid is going to drop a hammer on his head. And the kid with the beanie that drops the hammer because he's outside this window of an apartment and he just drops the hammer. You can tell it looks like something out of a 1960s cartoon.
Absolutely.
Even the mother. And you can hear, like, June Foray doing her Mom Beagle voice with that. And she's like, put down that hammer. You may drop it on a person or a moose. And it's like a coincidence it does land on a moose. Mm-hmm. And Bullwinkle looks like he's ready to do the bathroom dance and it falls on his head.
Yeah, it is. So we get to the end of the story here. Now, how will I ever become the 8th richest man in the world? I have an idea. I'll tell you if you keep your promise to donate to build that park for the kids of Frostbite Falls. It's a deal. What do I do? Promote your chauffeur, Captain Peachfuzz, to become your financial advisor. But he's always wrong about everything. True. So you just do the opposite of whatever he says. If he says buy, sell. If he says sell, buy. And that's just what Louis F. Lucre did.
Yeah, he buys all the peanut brittle in the world and manufacture indoor plastic bird baths. And, yeah, put all the money on the meats in a soccer pool. Yeah, he does the opposite. And then, Bullwinkle has a bandage on his head. He can't predict the future anymore. But he says, but I can predict an ad on the next page for the next issue.
Next issue.
I love the design of Peach Fuzz at the end. Like, you can see how happy he is giving away all these idiotic investments. And you can see... I love the rich guy. It kind of reminds me of something like Gremlins 2. Where the Gremlins take over Wall Street, like buy, sell, and the brain Gremlin going, we're putting all money into canned food and shotguns. This was, I wish he'd come back, Peach Fuzz. I thought Edwin voiced him, but I just love his eyes, like the pupils are going like different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so awesome. So for number 2, I do have the subcover. It is Snidely and Nell, and Snidely has her tied to a giant rocket with a second and third rocket next to it. I guess this cover is kind of indicative of the 4th of July, since this will be out right before then. And you've got Dudley in the background standing on the hilltop. Dudley is not do right. Dudley is insulting to all Canadians. And as much as everyone knows that I always insult my Canadian friends, especially JT from Saskatoon, Dudley is by far the worst thing Canada has ever produced.
Oh, so Jacques Rougeau gets a pass then.
I was basically giving a pass to Nickelback because I like them. All right, so on the inside flap, we have the cover, what's it called? Cover checklist. The main cover is Boris, Natasha, Rocky, and Bullwinkle on the moon. Bullwinkle has a magic wand, and Boris is holding the Big Bam Bomb. And oh, that is a safe. Oh, for a second there, I thought that was a police box. Never mind, ladies and gentlemen. Thankfully, they would never do something that stupid. And as I said, the subscription cover is Snidely and Nell with Dudley in the background. I don't know. I didn't really recognize. I don't remember. Like, I basically blocked Dudley from my brain. So when I told my shop, I'm like, yeah, these have subcovers. Make sure you get, because I'm all about at least getting the option to choose if I want the subcover or not. I almost wish I got the regular cover at this point. I'm just not a fan of Dudley at all. We open this one, Rocky and Bullwinkle, the Washed Up Wizard.
Yeah, this one.
What's wrong? You don't like this one?
You know what it is? No, it's why I'm agreeing with you where the 21st century and Rocky and Bullwinkle don't mix. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into it why. I have nothing against the character. It's just as we move along, you know, what you know, gives a sour taste in my mouth.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. So we start off with the narrator, as always. Well, as you don't remember last time, because this is the first part of a story, Rocky and Bullwinkle were walking in the park one day. Go on, pick a card, any card, and don't tell me what it is. Look, Bullwinkle, a magician. Hey, I think I recognize that guy. That's the Great Griffin.
I love this guy. This is... It's ironic because he's supposed to be a washed-up wizard, and around this time, at least in early 2000, Fox was having this guy who claimed that he was giving away all the magician's secrets. Mm-hmm. And you thought it was going to, you know, put magicians out of business. It only just made them more and more popular because it just made them up their ante. And I'm watching America's Got Talent, and I've seen a couple of magicians that really up the ante.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets confusing, but yeah, he's sitting on a bench, and apparently he's saying that, you know, because of CGI movies and special effects, kids don't care about magicians anymore, and I disagree, because growing up, and I watched a lot of David Copperfield. As I said, I go back to America's Got Talent. I don't care if you're revealing or not. I mean, I used to go to FAO Schwartz and Toys R Us where they had that. You know, that magic set, and the guy would demonstrate it. I'm still impressed with what they can do, so I don't buy that one bit.
Yeah.
And I love the fact with the hat. You know, it's like Bullwinkle is like, I'm always able to pull out like a talking squirrel was telling me now something we really like.
Do we really think that these are the America's Got Talent people?
No, you know what this is? Yeah, he's washed up, so... Oh, yeah, there's another gag where the magician pulls out a white rabbit, and Bullwinkle leans into Rocky and says, hey, look, Rocky, he's pulling out his hair. Ba-bum-bum. But, yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle decide to take him to a 21st century talent show, and it's called Earth's Got Entertaining Abilities. And we have these three judges. They look nothing like Simon, Paula, or Randy. I do love how one of the judges says, yeah, we're qualified to say that you have no talent because we don't have any of our own. It's weird with the continuity because at one point the guy on the right No, I'm sorry. The guy on the left doesn't have a goatee, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm sorry. No, he's opening up his mouth. He okay, I see what happens. I thought his mustache disappeared, but no, he just opened up his mouth.
No, he doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah, I see what.
He's just it's just his mouth opening. But honestly, I was thinking more of like America's Got Talent than American Idol.
No,
like
because talent. At least here's the thing. I'm watching it now. Once Howard Stern came on, and I thought he was going to be like the Simon, but no, actually. He's
way more positive than Simon could ever hope
to
be.
He's got more of a personality. That's why Simon's show blew up in his face. Because people just don't care about Simon. I mean, Howard, even when he's trying to be nasty, there's no way he could be a jerk the way Simon was. And Heidi, but Mel B, I can understand it. Howie's fun to watch, and so who's the other one? The one who introduces
Mandel, Nick Cannon.
No, the one who's married to Mariah Carey.
Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon. That's it. They're more. These guys are stereotypical, and the problem is they're not based on anybody, so it doesn't make any sense when he gets booed off. And he gets booed off, and then all of a sudden, Boris can't open up a safe because he lost his touch. And Natasha's on a cell phone talking to Fearless Leader how Boris can't safe crack.
Look at Fearless Leader's computer. Everything else is thin as all hell, yet his camera is, like, ginormous.
Yeah, it looks like he just took his telescope and turned it into a camera phone, yeah.
Yeah, it's...
And Fearless Leader looks different in a way. I never knew that scar before.
Yeah, I think that might be artistic license. I don't know.
So, yeah, the Boris and Natasha, apparently they can't crack a safe. They're walking along. They come across a TV shop that's showing, the magician and Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they decide they're going to pretend to be an agent. And this is why it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Because they walk along a appliance store. They see the magician and Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they go like, okay, he's going to help us crack the safe because he's a magician. And Boris decides he has to go incognito. And for 3 panels, he's giving this monologue. He's going to have to turn into something worse than anything in the entire world, an agent. And you see in that last panel, he's like, I'm afraid I shall have to imagine some notes of suspenseful music here, an agent. And the way he looks is something like out of Ren and Stimpy. But it's not funny like, okay, we're going to bash an agent. And it's like...
I don't really get that. I mean...
Not every agent is slimy, and even if they are, it was never funny then, and it's not funny now. It's like every cartoon and every TV show and every movie has already made that joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get back to the Gate Griffin. I don't understand why the R is missing. Like, is that supposed to be a joke? Is it supposed to be, oh, he's washed up, oh, he's this, oh, he's that?
Yeah, you go to those rundown theaters, and because it's dilapidated, like, 1 or 2 words have fallen off the marquee. And then it's supposed to make a joke. But unfortunately, I guess they just, figured the gate or something.
But see, here's the, it would make more sense if they actually had it say the Gate Griffin instead of the G8 Griffin. I don't know, it's just weird. So we get to Rocky and Bullwinkle and the magician. Rocky says, "Hokey smokes, Mr. Griffin. You once filled this whole theater for your magic shows?" I did. For 3 shows a day, people stood in line for hours to see the miracles I made happen on this stage. That was back when you could do something amazing and folks didn't say, I've got an app on my smartphone that can do that. I'm really not liking the 21st century stuff.
No. The only thing that... when Boris comes in as the agent and he plays off of, Rocky and Bullwinkle, he hands out the card and Rocky's like, that voice, where do I know that voice from? And then he announces that he's an agent, and Bullwinkle goes, "Are you really an agent?" And like, who have you made famous? And Boris goes, "Mostly people you never heard of." And see, that's when it's funny. He kind of reminds me now of that show American Dad with Roger the Alien. Like, you don't care when he's an alien, but when he's in disguise and he's his different personas, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Boris works when he's in these different personas. They don't work, but they work for the gag. And that's the only thing that's funny is like that one thing which is mostly people he never heard of. And he's just pretending to get all these people like, Sigourney Weaver and Denzel, when it just turns out to be Natasha on the other phone. But yeah, he just takes away the magician to apparently give him an act, and Bullwinkle wants to become an apprentice.
I will say that Boris's disguise here, his wig, it looks like the top of it looks like Fearless Leader's camera on his computer.
I thought it more was like Egon from Real Ghostbusters, but yeah, I thought it would be like
Egon is more like swept up. It's not. It doesn't look like a funnel cake. This looks like a really, really dark chocolate funnel cake is what's on his head.
Oh yeah, it does at one point. Yeah.
So we get to magician person. You wait outside for me while I audition Moose, practice opening safes. Oh, but I need to brush up. I haven't done the safe opening trick in 30 years. Now, Moose, sweetie, you stand right in that square so I can audition you. Oh boy, I'm gonna be a star. What do you want me to do? Sing, dance, yodel? I make pot roast. Do whatever you do. Just don't step out of that space. I'll start with a poem. Yeah. There once was a moose with a wish, whose poems were all fine gibberish. A man from afar said he'd make me a star, but instead you are food for the fish. It's supper time.
Yeah, he has Bullwinkle stand on this trap door, and below it are piranhas, and yeah, we get like the tune a week for next episode, the treacherous trapdoor, or Bullwinkle goes through a stage. It's not a bad cliffhanger, actually.
No, it's not a bad cliffhanger at all. I really like it. It's just all of the technology stuff that I don't really care for.
Yeah, that's what it left me out. It's like, okay, and this is why I hate to be repetitious, but this is why it doesn't work, because they're so dependent on that 21st century gag.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it just isn't there.
No,
not for us. It isn't, because we grew up with the show, and they didn't do all that crap, as it wasn't around back then. The Dudley Do-Right story, I'm just going to
I'll bash it. It's speaking of agents, yeah, it's Dudley Do-Right that has to get a man, then he gets an insurance agent.
Yes. He gets an insurance agent, puts him out of jail, or puts him in jail, and this insurance agent is trying to sell all the insurance policies to all the criminals and blah, blah, blah. Mark Evanier, man, I love your writing on Rocky and Bullwinkle. It is absolutely fantastic, but it's not your writing, man. It's the characters. I just don't care for the characters.
I don't understand why we couldn't get a Mr. Know-It-All at least, or
yeah, that would be awesome.
Mr. Know-It-All, or again, I don't know why you're bashing an insurance agent. I've known 3 of them in my lifetime, from Staten Island and Albany and here in Pennsylvania. They're very nice people. They don't keep you. Their policies make sense. It doesn't explain why Dudley has to capture a man just because he's a Mountie. He's arresting Snidely just because a Mountie always gets his man, and it doesn't make sense. Nothing in this story makes sense. It's just like he arrests Snidely, and then he arrests the insurance agent, and Snidely's in a corner in the prison cell cowering because he can't listen to the insurance agent anymore. It just, like, I can't. Just, like, can we move on?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Rocky and Bullwinkle Goes Through a Stage. Splashy. Well, as you remember before the Dudley Do-Right story, Hollywood super agent Henry Hegler, who looked suspiciously like a Pennsylvanian super spy Boris Badenoff, had dropped Bullwinkle J. Moose into a tank of vicious man-eating piranhas. Bullwinkle's a moose, not a man.
I love that. Yeah, they don't eat him because they don't eat moose, they eat man. So Bullwinkle's just swimming around. Boris goes to the top of the tank and finds out, and then one of them bites Boris. And Natasha's just reading this book. It's like, oh, that's why. It's advertised in the species of piranha or man-eaters. They do not eat women, children, flying squirrels, coleslaw, or moose. I love the fact that they won't eat coleslaw. So they just like Bullwinkle just like flying around doing that, and finally he leaves the tank. And I love the face, like you can see like one eye looks like it's half circled or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. They capture the magician, and they're forcing him to open the safe. He gets put a note on a pigeon and send it out. So hopefully Rocky and Bullwinkle will get it. And yeah, the magician's trying to open up the safe as usual. And then, of course, we got the aliens that are back.
Yep.
We got, Cloyd and, Gidley, is that how you pronounce it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I love these guys. These were in the pilot.
Yep.
And that's what sucks, because in the pilot they would appear and disappear at will, which was amazing with the animation. It kind of freaked me out how they were fading in and out while they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I love how the other one, because he doesn't have a mouth, it's just like, I guess it's a mustache or whatever that just like moves up and down while he's talking. So as a kid it would freak me out, but nowadays it's awesome. But yeah, they're watching.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like Pigpen.
Yeah. But they're watching the show on the moon, and they see what's going on with Rocky and Bullwinkle, so they just like they use their technology to zap a magic wand, and they make it magic for Bullwinkle to find the magician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dowsing rod now.
Yeah. And we get so Bullwinkle. I do love this line. Bullwinkle, yeah. I thought you said this one has no magic powers. I guess the joke's on me. The one carried Bullwinkle all over the city sky. Someone is confused. It's the squirrel who flies, not the moose. I love that line. That line is awesome. So he realizes what to do, and he just at that moment, I hope this one has a good GPS system built into it. Oh, no. No modern technology references, please. Boris is Moose. So it is. How you get here, Moose? This little magic wand brought me. Magic wand? I can use magic wand. Magic wand, deliver this bomb to fearless leader in Pennsylvania. And at the moment he said it, Boris realized that maybe he should have phrased that differently. Because the bomb disappeared from 101 3rd Street. Dun dun dun. And reappeared in a certain building in Pennsylvania. Bad enough when I get my hands on you.
Yeah, blew up. Yeah, it sent it there, but apparently it was still ticking.
Yep.
It never says how, though. They never even set it off, but I love that. Like, he sends it and just exploded.
No, they do say it.
Oh, they
do? Oh, no, wait. No, that's the other one. That's the one that's in a later story. That's the one it's the burger bomb, not the Big Bam bomb. Yeah, they don't say how this one explodes. I don't know.
And then, yeah, the magician, apparently, he became famous because he thwarted Boris and Natasha's plans. He's on TV, but then, the Moon Men are like, oh, well, he's on every station now.
Every station now. Let's see what's on Saturn's TV. They run rings around Earth TV. And then it gives the main cover of the next issue. We want you to defend the moon.
I love this cover. This should be on a shirt. I love it because it looks like Bullwinkle's not having anything. Neither is Rocky.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see the movement, like, one's on the left, one's on the right, and you see Boris and Natasha in their space helmets.
Yep.
I love the narrator in this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back after this.
Hunnick Outcast Podcast is the latest podcast to be partnered with the Geekcast Radio Network with its host, Jeremy Fein. What is Hunnick Outcast Podcast, you may ask? Well, it's a grab-bag gimmick of pop culture and non-pop culture events. 1 week I could be discussing Godzilla. 1 week I could be discussing some of the PG and PG-13 to R-rated Disney-esque movies. Comics, getting on my soapbox, just ranting and raving. You never can tell. So check me out on iTunes, Hunnick Outcast Podcast, Twitter, Hunnick Outskirt, Facebook.com, Hunnick Outcast Podcast, and, of course, syndicated shows section on the Geekcast Radio Network website. Finally, a podcast that will never be questioned, ever.
It's action, it's drama, it's comedy. It's Decian, the superhero webcomic. Decian's got superhero antics and sexy girls. Read it now at Decian.com, DASIEN.com.
Have you got any more ideas, Mr. Peabody?
I always have more ideas, Sherman.
So yeah, issue 3, the subcover is Snidely Mart, with Dudley Do-Right going shopping for Snidely soap, Snidely crisps, extra large phone charger, Tri-Toaster 3000, a Ceylon toilet paper, and the inside cover is Natasha. The main cover, this is another one where I kind of wish I got the main cover versus the sub cover. But this time around we have, we got pretty much the same crew: Evanier, Langridge, Caldwell, and Gatos, or Gatos, however you want to say it. Rocky Bullwinkle in the first Moose on the Moon. Well, as you remember, last time our heroes were on the surface of the moon, being pursued by an evil rocket ship that was trying to blast them into... Wait a minute, I don't remember this happening last time. I don't even remember there being a last time. This is part 1, and we seem to have started somewhere in the middle.
You see, this is why I love the show, because this issue goes back to classic Rocky and Bullwinkle. This is what it should be. Yeah, I love this. They're on the moon running from Boris and Natasha, and they don't know why they're destroying Moose and Squirrel, other than, like, Natasha's even questioning Boris, and Boris is like a little kid just like blasting at him in his rocket ship. And he's like, anytime is a good time to destroy Moose and Squirrel. Yep. And to me, it makes sense because that's just, that's their purpose. That's what they do. And, yeah, this one seems to be that Pennsylvania owns the moon somehow. That apparently, even though we landed on the moon, Pennsylvania claimed ownership. Yeah, I love this plot. This is something. This is something out of a 1960s cartoon or even a 1980s cartoon plot. Even on G.I. Joe, this would have worked in a way. I love how Fearless Leader, he holds a press conference and claims because this Pennsylvanian, claimed the moon, that now Pennsylvania owns the moon. So at night, people looking at the moon, Boris pops out of a bush and says, "You look at the moon, you have to give us money." And then all of a sudden, another panel, this teacher's reading the kids, she's reading The Cow Jumped Over the Moon. And Natasha's outside a window with a bucket of money saying, like, if cow jumps over moon, our moon, you owe us money. And then my favorite, the best one, is that the werewolf is going to change, and then all of a sudden he's about to go on this rampage, and then Boris pops out of nowhere, and he takes off his... he's in a garbage can. And he has the lid as a hat, and he has his hat as like, "Hey, you hairy savage monster! If Moon transforms you, you owe us money." And the Wolfman's like, "What?" And then, of course, moonwalkers have to pay money, dogs, and anyone who goes on a honeymoon. I love this one.
I was really, when I saw the honeymoon one, I was really hoping for Ralph and Alice. I was really hoping for the Cramdens.
I think it's licensing. They actually had their own comic for a while.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
They did. I don't know who published it, but it was back in the 90s. But
Right,
I think today, unless IDW, because I love this publisher. Like they're really
they're
bringing back,
amazing.
they're bringing back nostalgia's finest. But yeah, this is classic Rocky and Bullwinkle, and then of course you got the Moon Men who are kind of like they're not paying attention to anything. I think that Rocky sends them an email, and one of them thinks that again, 21st century technology, that it's a Venetian,
Spam.
that's gonna says he's the prince who wants to send like 1 million Zorndicks into our bank account.
Yeah.
And
the 21st century stuff just doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's the only thing out of the Rocky and Bullwinkle stories that I don't like. It's the only thing. The rest of it is all well and good. We keep mentioning this is a moon caper. The moon caper even works in the 21st century because, after all, Gru and his minions attempted to steal the moon.
Well, they did for a few minutes, and then they gave it back because it enlarged, but it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, it got somebody turned back from a werewolf into a human being, and that worked too. That was a good gag. But this, unfortunately, what I don't get is that they're using computers, and Rocky sends an email to the Moon Men. Like they never say how they had the email address or whatever, or he sends them the email, they reply, and they go LOL, and Rocky doesn't know what LOL stands for. They think that it means like I think Bullwinkle goes lunar orbiting laughter or something.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of funny, poking fun at the internet slang, and while it didn't make me LOL, I just find the whole thing preposterous. Okay, sure, yes, we got the movie with, like I said before, with Piper Perabo and Jason Alexander and all that stuff. Sure, we got that, but how long ago was that movie out?
14 years ago.
Oh my God, I'm so fucking old.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I was.
But here's the thing: it's like I didn't mind them because they were in the 20s. See, here in this comic book, I see them in their time, in the old cartoon. Like I don't see them in the modern day because they're talking about Apollo 11 and they're talking about this and talking about that and everything. So I see it like during that time. They didn't have cell phones and apps and again, I get it. Evanier is trying to play to the kids of today, but these are stories that should have been just for us, just for the people that grew up with the show.
But here's something that does work in the 21st century. They decided to go to a space program to go into the the moon, and because of budget cuts, the space program is now in a junkyard, and you have this general in a junkyard in a cardboard box saying space program department, also dog licenses. Because I mean, wasn't the space program scrapped for a few years? I know like everything was shut down. I mean, that social commentary, that doesn't bother me so much. That works.
No, that isn't what bothers me. What bothers me is just the plain use of technology that wasn't around in their time. Either do one of two things. Have a comic, have stories in the comic that are specific to the time that Rocky and Bullwinkle were out, or bring them into today and have them do adventures that are today's kind of, the 21st century adventures. Have them do one or the other. Don't have them be on the internet in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me.
It's weird, and
what?
This rocket that just happened to hold one moose and one squirrel, and Rocky's like, "Oh, I'm one squirrel," and Bullwinkle's like, "I'm one moose," and the general's like, "Okay, you go there, find some evidence that Pennsylvania doesn't own the moon." But then I love how it ends is like, could you please buy a dog license? And I love how Bullwinkle just like looks at the audience. Like, you have a dog, like a poodle or a cocker spaniel or something. and I just love how his arms are folded and everything, like your tax dollars at work.
Yeah, really.
And
the final page is Boris, Natasha, Fearless Leader, all on a soundstage filming their fake takeover of the moon.
Well, this is back to, I guess Neil Armstrong, that they've always said that the moon landing, was staged back then. And it's still controversial to this day. I'm not even going to go there anymore because there are so many things that I was like, it's annoying at this point. And everybody knows where I'm going to go with this, But it makes sense that they staged the moon landing. It feels, what Fearless would do, and it just ends with not really a cliffhanger. It's just Rocky and Bullwinkle discussing what they're going to do when they go to the moon, and it gives the next episode.
Yeah, it says, in the coming back part, that may be the problem. Don't miss our next episode, The Lunar Squirrel or Moon Rock Rocky.
Yeah.
We still own the moon. Pay up.
And
well, I will say about this Dudley story, as much as I don't like the characters in general, I will say this Dudley story was awesome.
This is, you know what? This is something out of a Ren and Stimpy episode I saw, where it had nothing to do with Ren and Stimpy. It had to deal with these two idiot characters that were on a Ren and Stimpy episode, and then they had their own episode where they had all this money and the salesman would just like sell them stuff because they were feuding, and that was funny. This is just Snidely is selling things, and if you're not happy with what he sells you, you can return it and get double your money back. And he's selling somebody what is it, Beethoven made out of macaroni, and he's selling this woman a drill made out of styrofoam, and he's claiming that people don't take the trouble out of demanding refunds. No, first of all, in today's 21st century, everybody wants a refund over anything, and I know this for a fact. It's getting it that's a problem, and if they would have made that, but no, they just have it where Dudley is given $1,000 to go to donate to a children's hospital fundraiser thing. And Dudley goes, he runs into Snidely, he wants to buy a yogurt straightener. He's not happy with... No, he brings it back to his superior officer, I think it's Fenwick. Yeah, and he says, like, no, go back and get the money. Dudley says, I want the money or otherwise I'll arrest you for false advertising. Snidely goes, here's $2,000. And then Dudley's like, oh, then I could buy 2 yogurt straighteners. He buys them, he returns them, and he's given $4,000. And Zai's like, here, just go away. And every time he gives Dudley back the money, Dudley keeps buying yogurt straighteners until he bankrupts Snidely. And somehow he gets like $32,000, and all Fenwick cares about is trying to build a macaroni statue out of Ludwig Beethoven. It works in other cartoons.
The only thing that works for me here is Snidely being that stupid of giving the double your money back thing. That's the only thing in this story that I really enjoyed, because I wanted to see what amount of money Dudley would have come back with at the end of it.
He might as well just come back with magic beans. It still doesn't make any sense because I don't get the point of how stupid Dudley is. I mean, is Dudley... Like, did he marry his own grandmother, like in Futurama? Or I don't quite understand why Dudley is so stupid, and it's not. It just doesn't work. His facial expressions of his stupidity and everything. It just the only panel that I like is when Snidely can't take it anymore. You can see him cracking, but no, it's not funny.
All right, so we move on to Moon Rock Rocky.
Yay!
It was the first day of summer when Rocky and Bullwinkle made their little June foray into the moon. Their mission to prove that Pottsylvania had never landed one single Pottsylvanian on its surface and rightfully claimed ownership of the moon.
I love this. They have a thing where if you want to buy oxygen, you have to insert $5.
Yep.
You know what this is based on? And all major credit cards accepted There's something at Island of Adventure with the the Dudley Do Right log flume at Toon Lagoon. There's this huge human dryer that if you get wet on the ride and you don't have a poncho, even if you do, you're still going to get wet. You go into this giant cartoon blow dryer for, it's called a people dryer. And it says this, that, you put in $5 or all major credit cards accepted to get dried. And it kind of looks like the rocket ship that we see in this panel. So I guess that's what the reference is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to the moon to disprove that the Pennsylvanians have landed on the moon. And we see your favorite trick with the aliens where they disappear.
Yes, I love that. I love. I mean, that's nostalgia. The problem is in the cartoon. It's awesome. Here, it's like, okay, one panel, we see their face and their eyes, and again, it's a comic. I'm not going to take points away from that. Yeah. I understand what they're trying to do. It's okay. I mean, but I love how Boris and Natasha, like, they can't go from the Earth to the moon. It's like they somehow got a map for New Jersey. And they're trying to find the George Washington Bridge while they're in outer space, and also Bullwinkle looks at the Earth and is like, "Oh, we have a full Earth out tonight," while they're on the moon. I mean, that's classic Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah. And then we have the huge twist. But that was all a fraud. Pennsylvania filmed its moon landing on a movie sound stage. What is that nincompoop doing? He's ruining everything. So the moon does not belong to anyone yet, and I will now claim it in the name of power even grander than the greatest Pennsylvanian, me.
Oh, I love that panel. Like, you can see... that should also be on a shirt. The way that Boris opens up his mouth and goes, me, and he holds up the flag, ends Boris's head and goes, mine. That should be on a shirt right there. And I also love how he gives that monologue, like, him in that circle. It's just his head. You can see, like, the half eye and the other one that's crazy. This is a great art design of what Boris would be if he went nuts. And I love how Fearless is just pissed off because Boris now claims he owns the moon. So they have to try to get the flag away from Boris.
And they do.
Well, it's interesting because Rocky can't fly because you're right. On the moon, you weigh differently. And so because Bullwinkle is heavy... they throw him like a football, and he's able to fly like Rocky, and he's able to grab the... like, Boris is about to claim that he owns it. He's like, I hereby claim the moon in the name of... and he's about to plant the flag and go, Boris Badenoff. Bullwinkle grabs it, and all of a sudden the aliens, they scrooch Boris and Natasha. Now, I thought in the pilot, when you get scrooched, you're evaporated. Here, they're just frozen.
I'm not sure. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, they mentioned it in the pilot because they wanted to zap. They wanted to scrooch Rocky and Bullwinkle because Bullwinkle somehow created a rocket fuel. So they were afraid that if they did that, people will go to the moon and discover the Moon Men and make life miserable for the Moon Men. So they were enemies back then. And they wanted to keep using the ray gun and scrooge them, but we thought it kills them, but no, as I said, it just freezes them.
Yeah, and in this comic, having them being frozen makes a lot more sense than killing them, because, after all, they do, as much as we've, not liked the whole technology aspect and referencing current-day technology, this is a comic still for kids at the same time. Overall, issue 3, I liked it. I thought it was pretty interesting. We'll do ratings for all 4 issues at the end of the show. Finally, up in this episode of the Pull Bag is issue number 4 of Rocky and Bullwinkle. This is the final issue of the 4-issue miniseries. The subscription cover is Angry Birds related because this month IDW was doing Angry Bird covers.
Oh, that's what that was.
Yes. Red is on red. White, yellow, I forget what White's name is. Red, Chuck, and Bomb are sitting in Bullwinkle's antlers. And the other one, I I forget what the big one is. He's really small, but he blows up like a beached whale. Is on top of Rocky's head. So the covers here, there's actually 3 covers this time around. You have the regular cover, which is a super giant Boris Badenoff, looks like a bowling ball chasing after Rocky and Bullwinkle, and you have Natasha at the bottom with holding a Boris burger. You then have the retail incentive cover by Langridge with colors by Jeremy Caldwell, which is basically a giant burger and a bunch of fat people. So this is basically their commentary on Super Size Me.
Yeah, this one's dated, but yeah, it deals with like 3 or 4 panels of a guy just asking for a specialty burger, because this was, I guess, Burger King and McDonald's that would take special orders for a while, and he's saying like he wants a special plate and a porcelain plate, and how he wants the burger cooked at like 71.1 Celsius. And after he's giving this ginormous order, which I don't know if we should really go into, but the guy,
oh no, we won't.
Yeah, the waiter is like, it's a fast food place, but the guy's actually writing this down, and he goes like, "Hey Murray, 1 number 6 and hold the maple syrup." They actually put maple syrup on some burgers, but I'm not going to get into those burger joints.
No.
This is social commentary on fast food. That Boris has a Boris Burgers. They kind of have this again at Island of Adventure in the Toon Lagoon section. There's this section where they have Aesop and Son. They have Rocky and Bull. The cutouts. They don't have a meet and greet, but they have the characters around in this section.
Right.
And they have a kind of like a moose burger in a way, like it's Bullwinkle. They don't have Boris and Natasha, which sucks, but. Yeah, the Boris Burgers, I guess, is supposed to be based on Island of Adventure, that section. So he owns a burger joint, and anybody who buys the burgers, they get huge because they're trying to make people overweight. So if Americans are, I don't want to be cruel, but if they become fatter, then Pennsylvania can just come in and take over. And that's pretty much... Actually, it's not a bad goal. Because it's something that he's putting in the burgers that's making them addictive and making them overweight. Mm-hmm. But Rocky and Bullwinkle are making burgers from mooseberries. And
yes, and they have no meat. What? They're basically making vegetarian burgers. So this is Evanier making a social commentary about vegetarianism versus people who eat meat.
And I like soy burgers. McDonald's was selling veggie burgers and soy burgers. They didn't do well. They're not... I eat soy every now and then. I like tofu. There are tofu dogs. But the problem is that it's an acquired taste. So they don't work too well in a fast food place. The salads are okay. The yogurt parfaits are okay. But trying to put veggie burgers in a fast food place... it's how you have to cook the burger, unfortunately. It's different. You can't grill it the way you do, or flame broil it the way you would do a regular hamburger. It just doesn't work that way. But Bullwinkle apparently is making them out of mooseberries, and this guy walks around Rocky and Bullwinkle's house and decides to try one. And he is going to...
He's a scientist. He said, "Oh my God, these are amazing. You should sell these." And they're gonna do more testing on them.
Yeah, the mooseberries almost look like gummy berries or Smurf berries.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy who's overweight who ate a Boris burger became thin again. It's like Waldo, actually. He has that Where's Waldo shirt. So the people that got fat got thin again, and Boris and Natasha don't know what to do next, and apparently that's another cliffhanger. But I like the last line. Like, Natasha's like, "What are we going to do now that people are getting thin again?" And Boris is like, "What are we going to do? The same thing we always try to do. Only this time we will succeed." And he goes like, he finally found the perfect way to kill Rocky and Bullwinkle. And yeah, I like a chance of hamburgers or Bullwinkle swap meet. I mean, it's a good cliffhanger.
Yeah. The Dudley Do-Right story.
This is not for kids.
No, it really is.
She's in Nell.
Was she like this in the cartoon? I honestly don't.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Nell. Here's the whole backstory of Dudley Do-Right. Many years ago, PBS had a documentary that I wish I would have kept. They claim that Dudley Do-Right, of course, is based on those old Perils of Pauline, silent movies, and what they try to do, and that's pretty much what it's supposed to. That's why June Foray does that. Oh, Dudley, and Snidely Whiplash is supposed to be that 1920s villain, like, you must pay the rent, I can't pay the rent, and Dudley's supposed to come in like, I'll pay the rent, but Nell is not in love. Well, Nell was kind of in love with Dudley in the cartoons, but she really wants to branch out on her own, and there's an episode where she wants to go into show business. Dudley and Nell are supposed to be engaged, but at the end of the day, she relates to the horse more because she feels that she can talk to a horse than she can talk to Dudley. In the movie, they tried to make them more romantic leads, but it didn't work out, and they made Snidely more of an idiot. Doc Ock was Snidely. It didn't work out too well. But
Dylan Baker?
No, Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2.
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina, yeah. Alfred Molina was...
I was thinking Doc Connors, but yeah.
So, yeah, this is just like... Nell is literally in love with Dudley's horse, and she finds out that because crime is down, that her father is going to transfer Dudley, and so apparently Snidely's in jail, and Nell was like, oh, well, people in jail are able to commit crimes, and this guy was able to steal $1 gazillion, and in American money it's 88 cents, which is, a dated joke.
Yeah.
And somehow she frames Dudley. She frames Dudley Do-Right, and Dudley goes to jail where he can't be transferred so she can still be with the horse. And you can see at the last panel, the horse is looking at the audience like, oh, yeah. And I'm kind of like, I haven't watched too many Dudley Do-Right cartoons, but this is just, this is not meant for a kid.
No, not at all. Because they're basically saying in this that she's Catherine the Great and the horse is the horse.
Well, that's the problem, because the way that he looks at the audience at the end is just like, and poor Dudley. I mean, first of all, he's framed. All they do is they throw him in jail. It's like Snidely wants nothing to do with it because supposedly she gets Snidely to give Dudley a note, and Dudley, being Dudley, hands the note to a bank teller and claims that, give me $1 gazillion in a paper bag, and Dudley's just walking around not knowing what to do with it. And his fellow Mounties are like, okay, we're going to throw you in jail. Dudley claims Snidely gave it to him, and Snidely, I love the panels, like, his eyes are closed, his hand is over his heart, like, I've never seen this man before my entire life. Even though they're adversaries, and Dudley has like this, I feel so badly, like the facial expressions on Dudley in the last two panels, it's like, they don't know. It's kind of like that character from Bugs Bunny, Pete Puma. It's like, what did I do?
No, I see your point with Pete Puma referencing, but Pete Puma was, he was not anywhere near as sympathetic as Dudley is here, because Pete still wanted to eat that rabbit.
I suppose, but Dudley, I don't know what Dudley's MO is anymore. It's just like he's a dunk tank. Yeah, can we move on with this?
Oh yeah. Final story here is Bullwinkle's swap meet. Well, as you remember from before the Dudley Do-Right story, Bullwinkle was making the greatest burgers in the world. People were lining up to buy them. Everyone who wasn't busy trying not to float away. They came because Bullwinkle's burgers were really good, and also because they were the antidote to Boris burgers.
Yeah, it's all these fat people are coming because they want to be thin again. And Boris is going to take... I love this. This is when it goes back to classic Rocky and Bullwinkle. He takes the alarm clock, and he has like 2 wires that are coming out of the burger, taped to the burger, and you can hear the ticking noise. Yeah. He's going to put a bomb in the burger, and then he takes out this briefcase, is this evil spy disguise kit. And he puts the burger in that briefcase, and he's like, oh yeah, he's the health inspector. He's Mr. Clean Bill O'Health.
Yep.
It's like he's not even trying anymore, and you know, Rocky's like, I think I've known that voice, and you know, Bullwinkle's like, don't sweat it. Half the people we meet sound like him. So and I love the panel. Like, Rocky hears ticking, and Boris just like takes his left foot, and it's like he's kicking the briefcase, so you can't hear the ticking. And yeah, he's trying to switch the burger with the bomb with the regular burger, so it'll blow up, and it doesn't.
No.
And apparently, oh yeah, and then Boris is holding the burger, which makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. And then we get to Mogul, Mr. Mogul, Mogul's Mooseberry Bush Burgers. Yeah, no, it sounded just as bad when it was Bullwinkle's Mooseberry Bush Burgers.
This is not for kids, folks. This is definitely the way that no. But Mogul, I don't know, is he supposed to be based on Donald Trump or Ronald McDonald? Because
Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, the hair makes no sense. The suit makes no sense.
Well, his name is Ronald Mogul, so in that aspect, in name, he is supposed to be Ronald McDonald. But there really isn't a Ronald McDonald. There is. There's a giant clown with red hair, but so we find out. I can only imagine this has to be Bill Scott doing. I know not in the comic, but in the show, if this ever happened in the show, it has to be Bill Scott doing a female voice impersonation for Grandma and Bullwinkle look exactly alike.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be Bill Scott. I think it would just be June Foray.
June Foray, maybe, yeah.
Because I mean, in the cartoon, June Foray did most of the female voices. So
yeah.
No, even though it was June Foray, you knew the voice, you didn't care. So it's Ma Beagle, and it's a great character. I don't think she was ever in the cartoon. It's just for this comic, but he won't sell out. I love how Bullwinkle will not sell out.
Yeah. I wouldn't waste my money, Moger. Mr. Pallet, what happened to you? Can't you see I grew antlers? That's a side effect. That comes from eating Bullwinkle's Mooseberry Bush Burgers.
Yeah,
that was a shocking discovery.
You know, it's funny. They didn't even go to the FDA. It's like all of a sudden, it's like a talking moose is making burgers out of berries, and nobody is bothered to like all of a sudden, like they build this restaurant, and Mogul is throwing a temper tantrum because Bullwinkle won't sell out. The guy comes in, he's got moose antlers, and everybody else has them, and Mogul's like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't buy your business then forget everything. Like, what?
Yeah.
And I love how, in unison, Bullwinkle and his grandmother's like, what's wrong with antlers?
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. So we get to Boris and Natasha. That is right, I forgot about the bomb. Boris, you hear that ticking sound? Tick, tick, tick. Kablam! And that was the end of Boris Burgers, though not, of course, of Boris or his sultry companion. And at the end of the story, they are making sushi. Moose flower, petunia plants is the ingredient. And that's the end of our story. Be with us next time, if there is a next time, for the further adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I'll have a California roll, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they'll continue.
I know I didn't really ask the IDW people directly, but I do know when it first started, I asked them, is Rocky and Bullwinkle a miniseries or is it going to become an ongoing? And they said a miniseries. So I don't know if it is going to continue. Honestly, if it does continue, I would rather get it in trade than singles. I like it. There are just certain things I don't like about it. Probably, I'm trying to think here. Most likely all of the issues, I will probably give a 3.5 stars for all 4 of them. Like I said before, I hate to be a broken record, but you need to pick a time. Either they're going to be in the 21st century or they're going to be in their original time, in the 60s and 70s. If they're going to be in their original time, take the technology out of it completely. I know Evanier is trying to make jokes about, payphones, stop being relevant in 1993 and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but it just doesn't work for me with that.
Well, for me, not to be repetitious, but with the first issue, I'm going to give a 4. I like how it's a pilot episode in a way. The only thing is that the Dudley Do-Right is a bad Bazooka Joe comic. The second issue, there's too much of the 21st century, and the magician storyline. Again, I don't think there was enough research. It's trying to take another story like, do people from the 80s and 90s deserve a comeback? I mean, we saw this with the Muppets. We saw this with the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. It's been done to death, and I think for that one, I have to give a 2.5. The third one felt like, I love the cover, first of all, and the third one felt like classic Rocky and Bullwinkle, so that gets a solid 5. And as for the fourth one, I go to a 2.5, because as much as I like the social commentary, I feel it's kind of like when I'll go into YouTube and watch a video, and I have to watch 27 seconds of, the truth about cigarettes now, because they took away that truth.com, website, if you remember, and now they have a new one about anti-smoking, and it's like they cram, it's like, if you don't know how not to take care of yourself, I understand what they're trying to say, but they don't say it well, and they're just making fun of Ronald McDonald, and they don't know where to go or what it wants to be. And so out of the 4 issues, I would definitely pick up 1 and 3. You don't need 2 and 4.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, if they do more of them, stick to a certain time period and just stay. And you don't have to use Rocky and Bullwinkle to do social commentary. You really don't. I mean, sure, Rocky or Bullwinkle can sit here and make a joke about something, and it would be, and a lot of us get it and stuff like that. But you don't have to make your story be a social commentary on fast food.
Well, they didn't do it fast food, but they did it in the cartoon Fraction Fairy Tales, where they made fun of Disney World. They did a Fraction Fairy Tales of Sleeping Beauty, where they made the prince.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was okay. Or there's something else about the Kilward Derby, and they mentioned like they were trying to get sued for publicity. But yeah, as I said,
as we said, it needs to be classic Rocky and Bullwinkle versus the spies. Like, okay, sure, Boris's burgers versus Bullwinkle's burgers. That's not a plot. A plot from the villains is, claiming ownership of the moon, and then Rocky and Bullwinkle have this. That's a good Rocky and Bullwinkle plot. I don't know. Where can the people find you online, sir?
Oh, of course, I'm partnered at Geekcast Radio Network. You can find me on Facebook, Hunnick Outcast Podcast, Twitter, Hunnick Outskirt, and, of course, Stitcher and Spreaker.
All right, coming up next, we've got a back issue classics where Joe Reed and I talk about IDW's TMNT Volume 6, City Fall Part 1, and Villain Micro Series Volume 1. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
And so we come to the end of another fun-filled episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Rock, he sure got some funny ideas about fun.
You've just heard the latest episode of the Pull Bag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving a message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at GeekCastRadio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.